I know, maybe you will get bored if I have to discuss this character the umpteenth time. But wait a minute, unlike before, in this video we will discuss something quite different. What is it? Especially if it's not a full kit of this character. Yep, you heard it right. Some time ago rumors emerged globally about the details about this character's kit. And well, as we expected, she has extraordinary support abilities, especially for characters who are included in the Chrysos Heir, such as phainon, tribbie, aglaea, and others. So, will Cyrene's greatness automatically become meta support that we must pull in the next version? So without further ado, I'm Hoyostation and let's get into the video. Let's do this. Do you have a character or weapon in the game that you really want but you don't have enough stellar jades? Here's a smarter way to recharge your favorite games like Genshin Impact and honkaistarrail. Look no further than Lootbar. Lootbar is the most reliable top-up platform. It saves up to 23% for all orders compared with the official channel, and it provides an 80% off for your first purchase. It's 100% safe as you will only be using your UID. We will buy pack for 3000 stellar jades for $42, which otherwise would have costed $50. Totally saving $7.5. We received the crystals we purchased in the less than 3 minutes. All recharges will be done through the official channel with miHoyo, which allows you to enjoy all top-up offers. Ready to level up your gaming experience? Check the link in the description to get the amazing discount. Okay, we will try to discuss the basic attack first, which has two versions, namely the normal version and the enhanced version. For the normal version, called Low, Hope Takes Flight. This basic attack will give a special point called Recollection Point and deal ice damage of 50% of Cyrene's maximum HP to one enemy. Just for information, the Recollection Point functions to activate her ultimate, which requires a total of 24 Recollection Points for the first time. As for the enhanced version of the basic attack, named To Love and Tomorrow, this basic attack can give 3 recollection points and ice damage to 3 enemies in a blast. Unlike the previous basic attack, this basic attack will not give additional skill points. Oh yeah, just some additional information, that her enhanced basic attack can only be used when Cyrene enters the ripples of past reverie, which a new status granted through her ultimate. Okay, it's time we move on to her skill. Her skill is called Bloom, Elysium of Beyond. Will give you 3 recollection points and create zones on the field for 2 turns. When the zone is active, for every attack cast by a team member, it will deal 1 additional true damage of 20% to the enemy. Of course, the effect of this skill is very similar to RMC's MEMOSPRITE skill called Let Me Help You. However, the most noticeable difference between the two skills is that instead of buffing one character, Cyrene can give additional true damage to all team members. In addition, another difference lies in the true damage multiplier, where Cyrene only has 20%, and while RMC is 28%. Obviously, even though Cyrene has a smaller multiplier, because she can buff all the characters on the team, so I think her buff is superior. And now we will move on to the ultimate part of her, called Verse Vow, which can only be activated if we have 24 recollection points. The unique thing about this ultimate is that in addition to being able to summon special MEMOSPRITEs, this ultimate will activate Ultimate's ultimate and make Cyrene enter a state called Ripples of Past Reverie. In addition, her basic attack will also strengthen into To Love and Tomorrow. Oh yeah, Cyrene and her MEMOSPRITE will also get a 50% increase in critical rate and make zones derived from her skills have no active duration. Just a side note, this ultimate can only be used 1 time per battle. Also, Cyrene's MEMOSPRITE HP will follow Cyrene's HP by 100% maximum HP. As for the second ultimate version, called Reunion at First Sight, which can only be activated if we have 12 recollection points. When this ultimate is active, her MEMOSPRITE will get a turn. This is the only way to make her MEMOSPRITE get a turn, as she has 0 speed, which means she won't get a turn in the usual way. Next, we will discuss her talent, called Hearts Gather as One. This talent will provide information about the mechanics of her ultimate. When the battle starts or Cyrene gets a turn, her teammates and MEMOSPRITEs will get future. Interestingly, when teammates who have future gets their turn, they will consume future to give 1 recollection point to Cyrene, so that Cyrene can trigger her ultimate faster. In addition, one of the attractions of this talent will provide a passive effect that can increase the damage dealt by all allies by 20% while Cyrene is in battle, making this character universal enough to pair with many characters in this game. Interesting, isn't it? Not forgetting that we will also discuss her technique called Peace at West Wind's End. After using this technique, you will create a special dimension for 30 seconds around the character. Enemies affected by this dimension will enter a state called this moment forever and cannot move. What's pretty cool is that this special dimension will also increase the movement speed of the active character by 50%. So the effect of this technique can be used when exploring the world. Oh yeah, when entering a battle with special dimension, Cyrene will instantly create a zone from her skill so that we don't have to relaunch her skills at the beginning of the battle to create a zone. Quite useful, right? Okay, now we are going to get into the most important part of Cyrene's skills, which is the MEMOSPRITE skills. First MEMOSPRITE skill, called Waltz of Flowers and Arrows, will give 50% ice damage to all enemies. Aside from that, Cyrene's MEMOSPRITE has a special MEMOSPRITE skill called Minuet of Blooms and Plums. This skill will give a buff to one teammate. When a teammate is a Chrysos Heir, that teammate will get a special effect that I think is pretty cool. However, when a teammate is not a Chrysos Heir, the teammate will gain a 40% increase in damage for 2 turns, making the effect of this skill applicable to all characters in general, guys. Now we will first discuss the special buffs given to the character of Chrysos Heir through this skill. But because the effects are very long, I'm sure you will get bored. So I'm going to try highlight the character effects that I think are pretty cool only. The first is the special effect for Castris. It's called Ode to Life and Death. Has an active effect during battle. With the addition of Cyrene's effect, Castris' new build can be stored up to 200%. Then when summoning Netherwing, consume all excess new buds. Then increase the damage multiplier by 0.24% of every excess 1% value when Netherwing triggers the effect of her talent called Wings Sweep the Ruins. What's even cooler is that if there are 2 or fewer enemy targets on the field, the damage multiplier will increase again by 0.48%, making the damage generated from Wings Sweep the Ruin even greater, especially if we have Evernight that can give new buff points quickly. Of course, this effect can be more optimal. The next character who also gets a special buff that is quite interesting is Hyacinth, named Ode to Sky. When Cyrene's MEMOSPRITE gives buff support to Hyacinth, Hyacinth will get 2 Ode to Sky and will recover 24 energy. When Hyacinth has Ode to Sky and gives healing, it will increase the healing value of Little Ika's skill by 72% of the healing value launched at that time. So the healing that she provides will be much greater. Of course, with the increase in healing output, the damage produced by Little Ika will also be greater, because as we know, Little Ika's damage depends on the healing value produced. Next, we will discuss the buff given to phainon, named Ode to World Bearing. When a special buff is given, phainon will gain Eternal Ignition when transforming. When he has Eternal Ignition, phainon will get a critical rate increase of 16%. Well, the interesting thing is, after phainon has run out of extra turns, he will not come out of transformation mode but rather refresh all his extra turns. Plus, after launching an attack, he will trigger extra 5 fire damage equal to 30% of the phainon's attack to one random enemy. Interesting, isn't it? Well, I personally think the effect of this buff is quite cool and can increase the damage output. Anyway, although this buff is pretty cool, unfortunately every time he gets a turn, he will lose 15% of his HP. So he has the potential to not be able to spend all the extra turns given. And the last character I need to highlight is Evernight, Ode to Time. will increase the damage dealt when Eevee uses the MEMOSPRITE skill Dream Dissolving as due by 48%. The cool thing is, after Evernight using the skill or ultimate, it gives an additional 1 Memoria. Of course, with this buff effect, in the future, Evernight can have the potential to become a main DPS with her own team. With this increase in damage and Memoria, Evernight is not only a sub DPS for the Chrysos team, but has the potential to become the best ice DPS whose damage may even surpass the Herta. Okay, now we will move on to the MEMOSPRITE's talent. For the first talent named Waiting in Every Past, the speed of Cyrene's MEMOSPRITE is 0, and it will not appear in the action bar either. What I think is unique, when in the field, this MEMOSPRITE will be considered out of bounds, which means it can't be used as a target by either allies or enemies. In addition, when Cyrene's HP decreases or increases, this MEMOSPRITE HP will also follow the HP from Cyrene. Anyway, when her MEMOSPRITE is in the field, both of them will get a 24% increase in the maximum HP permanently. I know it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, after using abilities, the entire duration of the sustained effect on this character is reduced by 1 turn. For the next talent named Hello World, when this MEMOSPRITE is summoned, it will remove all crowd control debuff effects from all team members. This effect is very good, especially if the team member is exposed to the crowd control before the Cyrene launches her ultimate. But unfortunately, this effect is only active once in battle, so we won't get any other benefits from this effect. Okay, we will go into Cyrene's traces section. For the first trace called Child of Remembrance, when teammates summon MEMOSPRITEs, they will get a future. Future given cannot be consumed. Well, although the effect of this trace is quite simple, it has a very good impact, especially for teams that use a lot of remembrance. Because when the team's MEMOSPRITE has a future, every time the MEMOSPRITE takes action, it will continue to give 1 recollection point to Cyrene. Of course, this effect will be very useful if you are using team members with remembrance. Otherwise, the effect of this trace is completely useless. For the second trace called Ripples Across Time, when there are 1 to 3 Chrysos Heir characters, or characters with path remembrance in the team outside of Cyrene, she will get 2 to 6 recollection points when starting the battle. The effect of this trace will also be very related to the Amphoreus character or the character with the path remembrance. As we know, all remembrance characters have a relationship with Chrysos Heir, making the effect of this trace very exclusive to the character. Furthermore, for the third trace called Causality in Trichotomy, when the speed Cyrene is at 180 points or more, it will increase the damage caused by all team members by 20%. Then for each excess speed point, it will increase the ice resistant penetration for Cyrene and MEMOSPRITE by 2%, up to a maximum of 60 excess speed points. The effect of this trace is useful for increasing the damage of all team members, as well as the damage of Cyrene herself. At its maximum, Cyrene can get up to 120% ice resistant penetration, with the note that you have 240 speed points on Cyrene. Of course, this is quite impossible if used in modes such as MOC, Purification or Apocalyptic Shadow. So these numbers can only be achieved in certain modes such as Divergent Universe or Simulated Universe. Finally, we get to the final part of her kit, which is the Eidolon section. For the first Eidolon named Epix, born on blank slate. After Cyrene uses the ultimate or when she summons her MEMOSPRITE, Cyrene will get 1 special point called Story. Interestingly, when the story reaches 3 points, her MEMOSPRITE will consume all points and get 1 additional turn, and will immediately launch a MEMOSPRITE skill called Waltz of Flowers and Arrows and give 3 recollection points. In addition, it will increase the number of bounces from skill called Ode to it by 12 times. Well, the effect of this Eidolon is pretty cool, guys. Her MEMOSPRITE will get at least 1 new way to get additional turns aside from the effects derived from her ultimate. In addition, the effect of this Eidolon will increase the bounce damage generated by the MEMOSPRITE skill Ode to it. In my opinion, this Eidolon is very worthwhile Eidolon, especially to get Eidolon 1 is still quite easy. For the second Eidolon, called A Tomorrow in 13 Shades. It also has an effect that is no less cool. When entering battle, Cyrene will immediately have 12 recollection points. Then for each different teammate who gets a buff from Cyrene's MEMOSPRITE, the damage multiplier through damage given by the zone of her skill will be increased by 5% up to a maximum increase of 20%. So at the maximum limit, the total true damage that can be given if added by the zone effect is 40% for all team members, where this figure is certainly very big, even exceeding the amount given by RMC, which is only 28% for one ally. Then for the fourth Eidolon, pan the place right on with a smile. Every time Cyrene's MEMOSPRITE uses the waltz of flowers and arrows, the damage multiplier triggered by the MEMOSPRITE skill called Ode to It increases by 5% in battle. Well, the effect of this fourth Eidolon only increases the personal damage of Cyrene herself without providing any benefit to the other team members. As for the last Eidolon, called Remembrance, sung in ripples, according to me personally, this Eidolon has a very cool effect. When Cyrene uses her ultimate for the first time, all teammates will get a 100% action advance, which means all teammates will immediately get a turn similar to Robin's ultimate effect. In addition, whenever her MEMOSPRITE triggers the effect of Epics Born on Blank Slate and uses the waltz of flowers and arrows, based on the number of effects it triggers, we will gain various effects. Increases all tap resistant penetration of all teammates by 12%, and increases the action of all team members by 20% if it triggers 2 times or more. Honestly, the effect of this Eidolon is really good, guys. While it's similar to Robin's ultimate, and the additional action advance also will be very useful for all types of team compositions that will be used. Finally, we come to the end of this video, which is the signature light cone part called This Love Forever. This light cone will increase the user's speed by 18%, as well as having an effect when you use a skill to your teammates. It will give you a blank that can increase the damage received by all enemies by 10%. Then when the user uses her skill on the enemy, it will give a verse that can increase the critical damage of all team members by 16%. When a user's MEMOSPRITE has a blank and verse, the effect of both will increase by 100%. Of course, the effect of this light cone will be very suitable for Cyrene as a support in the team. The increase in speed given will be very useful for her to be able to reach 180 speed points, in order to maximize the effect of her trace. In addition, she can also provide buffs in the form of increasing damage received by enemies up to a maximum of 20%, and increasing critical damage up to a maximum of 32%. Of course, both effects can be used for almost all Chrysos Heir team compositions, except for High Sealants, due to the DOD team not requiring critical damage to give attacks. Okay guys, maybe that's all for now. What do you think about Cyrene? Do you intend to pull this character by the time of version 3.7? Please type in the comments down below, and don't forget to check out my other videos because they are no less cool. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video.